Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Vinod Dudeja. I am Vice President, Sales and Operations for Trinamix. This is a webinar, and during our webinar today, we are excited to share a story on one of our customers, Glaukos, how they were able to transform their key business processes by implementing Oracle Cloud ERP. Joining me today in few moments will be David Holler, Director of Business Systems at Glaukos, Vikash Goyal, Vice President Product Strategy at Oracle, Tom Nelson, Partner at GoSAS, and Shantanu Bedekar, who is a Practice Director at Trinamix. We will have Q&A at the end. We want the audience to feel free to push the Q&A button, type their questions in so that we can take them in the end. As of now, I would like to invite our panelists to introduce themselves. I would like to start with David.
Great, thanks, Vinod. Hello, everyone. My name is David Holler. I'm the Senior Director of Business Systems at Glaukos. I bring approximately 30 years of experience within life sciences as it pertains to business systems, information technology. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Now, may I request Vikash to introduce himself?
Sure. Vikash Goyal from Oracle Supply Chain Management Applications Product Development Team. I've been at Oracle 20 years. Before that, supply chain professional like many of you. And like many of you, I'm sort of listening in to our great panelists. If there are any questions that I can address, I'm responsible in Oracle product development for supply chain planning, collaboration, manufacturing and maintenance areas. So I'll be listening in and very happy to be here.
Thank you, Vikas. Next, Tom, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Tom Nelson, I'm a partner here at GoSAS, one of the founders. I've been in quality, document control, engineering, and PLM since before PLM was actually a name. So I've been doing this for about 45 years. Both as a customer and a consultant. So I've been on both sides of the fence. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Shantanu.
Hello all. Thanks, Vinod. My name is Shantanu Bedekar. I'm Practice Director, Supply Chain and Manufacturing at Trinamix. I have more than 18 years of experience in ERP implementations, mainly for manufacturing and life sciences customers. I was the engagement manager at Glaukos during its Oracle Cloud ERP implementation journey. So very excited to share our story with all of you today. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome everyone. I also welcome all the audience here. Today's agenda, we're going to get a little bit of overview on Glaukos, their business drivers, what triggered an Oracle implementation and adoption at Glaukos. Then we're going to talk about key business drivers across life sciences industry. What are the key processes which get transformed across ERP, PLM, and supply chain. There'll be a little bit of perspective from GoSAS and Trinamix on the overall implementation. Vikash is going to shed some light from Oracle's point of view about new development of newer technologies and achieving regulatory requirements. Little bit around, Glaukos. Glaukos has been leveraging Oracle Cloud applications since May 2020. They launched their initiative during the pandemic and have been successful at it. During this whole phase, Glaukos also recently acquired another corporation called Avedro, a leading hybrid ophthalmic, pharmaceutical, and medical technology company focused on treating corneal disease and disorders. Now, through this implementation, they have brought Avedro's business onto Glaukos' single global ERP platform. This has allowed them to have a uniform, harmonized system design and business processes. So without further ado, this is more conversational. I'm going to call upon David to introduce, and for those who are not familiar with Glaukos, could you please give us a quick overview of your company?
Certainly, Vinod, will do. So first and foremost, Glaukos was founded in 1998, certainly has had a tremendous amount of success I think what's important to talk about Glaukos, and probably very relevant to this audience, is a couple of specific, a couple of specific, areas that are applicable to when you think about implementing a ERP system in a life science organization. So, first and foremost, we are we had our IPO, so we are under SOX compliance. So so we are a public company. That's very important to denote. Secondly, we do and have launched products both in medical device and pharmaceutical. So we have kind of combo products, if you will, that cover device and pharmaceutical. And those that are familiar in life sciences understand that there is a difference between those two, and certainly from a compliance perspective. And certainly, what's also important is, when we think about the number of employees that we have, we are consistently growing as an organization. We are experiencing substantial and significant growth. We are headquartered in San Clemente, California, but we also have operations in the United States and internationally as well. In the Boston area, we have some other facilities as well. And we certainly have some novel technology that we'll be discussing as we think about Glaukos and some of the solutions that we have provided from a business systems perspective. So thank you. Next slide, please. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about our footprint, worldwide footprint. So we do direct sales in 17 countries worldwide. So when you think about the implementation of an ERP system, one of them has to be, how do we do and manage SOX compliance and CFR regulatory, CFR 21 Part 11 compliance, regulatory compliance in 17 countries, and being able to successfully sell in over 30, and subsequently be able to grow in other markets as well. Very important. So as you can see from the map, we certainly have operations in EMEA and Australia, in North America and South America as well. So next slide, please. What's really cool about our technology, as you can see from this slide, and you look at our flagship product, the iStent inject, that's the actual size of the products. And we focus on, three different areas of eye therapy. And our flagship certainly is the iStent inject. It's a small medical device, believe it or not. It's a medical device that gets inserted into your eye. And what it basically does is it lowers the eye pressure. If anyone is familiar with glaucoma, it really is focused on high pressures in your eye, which subsequently could potentially cause loss in eyesight. So this product here tremendously reduces that ability to, it basically reduces the what's called the pressures in one's eye, so that it will prevent any or help prevent any eye loss or sight loss. And then we also focus not only on glaucoma, but certainly corneal health and retinal disease. We'll talk about corneal health as it pertains to our implementation of Oracle in Avedro, which was acquired a couple of years back. Next slide, please. And who basically are our customers? Well, certainly our customers are patients. Certainly, patient safety and health is paramount to Glaukos' success and what we look at driving. But we basically sell, worldwide, and certainly in the United States, to surgery centers as well as private practices. So because of the simplicity of our product, you can actually do the implementation or the insertion of our products into the eye in a private practice. We also sell directly to hospitals. So we have a variety of different sales points to different customers throughout the life science cycle. Next slide, please.
Thank you, David. My next question to you, David, is can you please describe the reasons and business drivers that led you to implement Oracle Cloud Platform?
Yeah, and I think basically, what it boils down to is the organization was growing substantially and significantly. And at a later slide, we're going to show you what our environment looked like prior to implementing Oracle. I think it's, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. So it'll show you where we were prior to selecting and implementing Oracle successfully. But really, the business driver is rapid growth and the ability to continue to grow and manage and meet the challenges of an international market, sales, be able to ramp up operations, take over take over pharmaceutical products, having combo products. So we talked about a medical device, but now we're looking at combo products that are both medical and pharmaceutical. When we acquired Avedro, they're a pharmaceutical organization, so we had to have an ERP footprint that would handle both elements of medical device and pharmaceutical. And being able to grow rapidly was very important. Also, and we'll show you the spaghetti chart, as I like to call it, most systems were completely disparate and disconnected. I'm sure most people can appreciate that. As an organization grows organically, so do the solutions. And a lot of times they're very independent of each other. And that's why implementing an ERP system that is integrated is very important. And, lack of electronic workflows, I think, was critical as well. So when we think about workflows, many things were considered manual. And we had to come up with a system that would allow for electronic processes to better improve efficiencies. I think what's also important and critical to life science organizations is data integrity, right? So we always have to have an important focus on data integrity. Having an integrated system allows that, where you don't necessarily have to have a constant human intervention in making sure that the data is appropriate and shared across the enterprise. Certainly what we have recognized and wanted to make sure we covered was, well, what are the benefits, right? Well, you think about, from a finance perspective, having a global chart of accounts is critical. Being able to order multiple products is key. And as you grow as an organization, as your customer service team grows, the ability to be successful in ordering multiple products, understanding what the customers need, understanding what the area of the focus for the products are. So that became important as customer service is obviously the first interaction with our customers, and being able to easily order products successfully is critical. And certainly when you think about life science organizations, the ability to drive compliance, both, as it pertains to CFR 20 Part 11 regulatory bodies, as well as SOX, SOX from that perspective. Having the ability to have audit trail traceability and version control was critical for Glaukos and critical for life sciences, any company that's considered life sciences. And what was also important is the scalability. As we think about acquiring organizations, as we think about organic growth, it's important to be able to scale the system and do it in a way that doesn't require substantial and significant cost to do so. And we'll get into a little of that, how we handled implementing our initial implementation, as well as our implementation as it pertains to Avedro, which is the company that we acquired. But also what was important is, having that single platform that wasn't disparate, whether it's supporting data, workflows, ability to train and continue to have data integrity was critical. And that's basically what you achieve when you think about having a single platform moving forward. But also some of the benefits when you think about a SaaS-based solution is not only the integration from an applications perspective, whether it's PLM in finance, PLM, supply chain, production, manufacturing operations, order management, etc. But think about it as a one-stop shop when you think about infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, integrations, where you don't necessarily have to be cognizant of having a huge footprint locally, and the costs and the overhead and the effort to support that moving forward. Having that one-stop shop all in was of substantial and significant benefit for Glaukos as well. So that's pretty much in a nutshell the benefits and the business drivers.
Thanks, David. My next question goes to Shantanu. Shantanu, from your perspective, what are some of the business drivers that you see across the life science industry?
Sure, Vinod. I think I can certainly highlight a few. I think one of the first key driver is the compliance with regulations, be it 21 CFR Part 11 or SOX or GXP. It's important that the processes modeled in any system are in compliance with all the applicable regulations. Also important that all processes configurations that fall under the scope of GXP are properly validated during the transformation project. Another key driver is the ability to provide end-to-end traceability across the supply chain, right? Starting from the first supplier to the end consumer, and at the same time, without adding any transaction overhead. So any system that's being implemented should be able to do that. We are also seeing growth through mergers. Organizations are expanding their depth and breadth of offerings. This will certainly require, from a system perspective, a better financial consolidation processes, global chart of accounts, ability to quickly onboard acquired business unit on a single ERP platform, and thereby achieve process harmonization, and then leverage the scale. I think also added cost pressures will force organizations to look for cost-effective manufacturing and sourcing practices. So the system should be agile enough to manage a combination of manufacturing methods, in-house manufacturing, contract, or a mix of discrete and process manufacturing. As David mentioned, Glaukos is a key example where you have medical devices as well as drugs being manufactured. So I think these are some of the key drivers that we are seeing. Thank you.
Thank you, Shantanu. My next question back to David. David, can you please share the main business processes that you have moved to the Oracle Cloud solution?
Yeah. So, we implemented the full gamut of Oracle products when you think about supply chain, operations, quality, PLM, product development, finances, order management, HCM. So we certainly implemented many of the modules. But we also, one of the keys was the ability to also integrate with third-party systems. So, for example, many organizations have Salesforce, and to be able to continue leveraging Salesforce, which is what the sales folks are used to using, was important to us. And the ability to be able to push data back, relevant data back and forward from Salesforce into Oracle was key. And when you think about ensuring that customer records are accurate, and for example, that quotes and invoices, et cetera, get pushed back and into Oracle for revenue reporting was a key success for us as well. And the ability to manage a lot of expirations were important during shipment. Global shipment was key as we think about as an organization where we're doing direct sales to 17 countries, as well as selling in 30. And when we think about our 3PLs, because we do work with distributors, many distributors, is the ability to integrate with those 3PLs to ensure that data is being processed appropriately and provided into Oracle in a manner that is beneficial from both a transactional perspective, but also a reporting perspective. Then we think about, planning to build electronic signatures were key. And one of the, I think, important pieces that we were able to deliver when you think about it from a life sciences perspective, think about as you execute work orders and the ability to execute work orders on a product build. Employees must be trained, right? So employee training is critical. And employee training records are critical, whether it's SOPs, whether it's quizzes, whether it's on the job. So we did integrations with Oracle so that when work orders are being executed, it validates an employee's training. So what does that mean? So that's key to us because, we at the end of a work order or when we're reviewing it from a quality perspective, if by chance an employee isn't trained, and they could be initially trained, but we all know we're training, we have version controls and updrafts always happening. then what happens is we have to scrap all of that work order, and that's never good. So we check upfront and verify that employee training or on-the-job training has been performed and successful. So those forms of integrations and workflows are key to the success of efficiencies moving forward for both Glaukos and as we think about our systems. And also integrations as we think about plan to build with equipment. So as we all know, tools have to be calibrated, and we have to keep those equipment calibrated and in calibration status. So we also check our tools. So when you have a manufacturing line, for example, you need to make sure that the tools are calibrated, that are being used within the manufacturing work order. And we check those as well. And that is an integration with Maximo. Most companies, most life science companies do use Maximo. So it's not required to be an Oracle, but it's important, but it's also to leverage the existing systems that you have and be able to integrate them with Oracle effectively to meet the business drivers and the needs of the organizations moving forward. And you think about procure to pay is important too. And we think about electronic approvals and requisitions and POs. As simple as that sounds, if you don't have it, it becomes a game changer, believe it or not. Managing safety, stock, etc. So, I mean, we've been talking about the ERP and supply chain, but it's important to talk about product lifecycle management as well. So we implemented product lifecycle management and product development, as well as HCM. So HCM stands for the HR management system. And why is that important? Well, when you think about integrating systems and delivering data, etc., when you implement Oracle's HCM system, now you're talking about being able to manage employees, not only for benefits and things that are critical to an employee from an HR perspective, but now we're able to leverage that data as we think about roles assignments, as we think about integrating with our employee training systems, etc. So that raw data or data as it pertains to employees and how it flows through the rest of the integrated systems we had talked about earlier about having an integrated system becomes key, becomes easier moving forward to both support it, but also to enhance processes moving forward. So I think I covered all the key business processes, and hopefully that makes sense. So next slide, please. All right, and this is the spaghetti chart I like to share with folks, and it's a bit comical in my mind. Because when I think about this and I look at this is what we had prior to deciding to move to Oracle. And anyone in business systems and or life sciences probably look at this and say, yeah, that's where we are. Well, yeah, that's where we were. And certainly understands the pain of this. So all of these disparate systems required support. When you think about 21 CFR Part 11 requirements and trying to utilize electronic records and process data through all of these disparate systems and different departments, it was certainly nightmarish. What's also important to kind of point toward is when you have these disparate systems, think about data flow and integration. And if you look at all of the red lines and blue lines were all manual entry. So you had multiple, data entry points, multiple data entry to multiple systems of the same data. And certainly when you think about extracting data through Excel and then uploading to other systems so that people can see the appropriate data based on that workflow or work requirement or process requirement, it was quite complicated and certainly not manageable moving forward. So these were the part of the business drivers to make the decision to move to a more integrated system and taking this spaghetti chart and eliminating many of these not only boxes, but many of the red and blue lines as well. So you can have that data flow as discussed, whether it's through HCM, into supply chain or the employee training systems or finance, etc. You can have those flows working appropriately and reduce the amount of duplicity and improve data integrity. And that's quite frankly what's important. So definitely wanted to share this, and I'm sure that folks that have joined can look at this and notice the pain that they're probably going through as well. Next, please. And so where are we now? It's important, correct? So you think about the spaghetti chart that we just showed, and the business drivers and what's important moving forward. And now we have, for all intent and purposes, an integrated platform in the cloud that, you look at the HCM cloud as discussed, and how it integrates with finance and also order management, product life cycles discussed, product master, product execution and quality, as we discussed, inventory warehousing, important, supply chain, procurement. And, when you look at these boxes, you got to also look at and call out some of these other things like quality, for example, a key piece to certain life sciences. And having all of this integration in place, when I say integration, is the data flow, right? The flow of data appropriately to the areas of the business that require it when they're required is certainly important. And then Oracle Integration Cloud has been a key piece of this platform as we think about it in the cloud. And in the integration, because not everything may fit into Oracle. We may have systems, you may have systems. We certainly do have systems that we will continue to want to work with Oracle successfully, Oracle application. So we have integrations with inspection management, our employee training system as discussed. Salesforce is a big integration for us. A lot of data being pushed back and forth. And Maximo. Maximo, again, is when you think about calibrations, we still want to use that for calibrations and ensuring that data is flowing and doing what we want it to do within the Oracle platform. Moving forward. And, certainly we think about electronic signatures and the ability to do audit trails, et cetera, become critical. You think about an integrated one-stop platform moving forward. So, again, the comparison of where we were and where we are today is quite different. And certainly a lot of benefits have been achieved through efficiencies within the organization. So I think I've covered that.
Yes. Thank you, David. Now my question, again, going back to Shantanu. Shantanu, would you like to add anything? Or sorry, before going to David, let me go back to Tom. Tom, would you like to add anything?
Sure. Just a little bit about the PLM. So, the PLM contains the so-called golden master. This is what is coming back to what David was talking about. It's the golden master of the product definitions. It doesn't take over the other aspects, but it's got things like the complete bill of materials, parts and assemblies. And what a lot of people are not used to is part of the bill of material these days called structure can include the work instructions, the standard operating procedures, specs, reports, and lots of other things. So it's not just the parts list. The full product history, like revisions, the design history file, and other things like that are available. And then, of course, you've got a lot of quality processes and an employee training system, as David mentioned, was deployed, showing that not only the training requirements. So for instance, if you change a document, change a work instruction, that's done in PLM, and as part of the release process, it automatically gets pushed over to the training management system. So everything's intertwined, and it's all pretty much real time. You don't have a lot of the delays like you used to. Another great thing is, since everything's on the same platform here, your reporting is built in. You can access virtually any piece of information that you need, assuming you've got the privilege to do that. But you don't have to go to multiple places to run reports now. It's one-stop shopping. And along with all this, the processes, the business processes have been made CFR compliant. All the information in a centralized location can help anyone in the entire enterprise go in and see the product related information. So all the history information, what's going on, quality events, things like that, it's all available in one place. So thanks, Vinod, back to you.
Thanks, Tom. Going back to David. David, can you share any highlights of the solution and the benefits that you have achieved?
Yeah, certainly. So as we were kind of focusing in on a little bit earlier, the employee skill set validation during manufacturing was a major improvement to us to ensure that our because obviously patient safety is critical. So ensuring that our equipment, what the tools that we're using were within validation, and that employees were trained to the right revs of SOPs, et cetera, were certainly key from an automation perspective. And you think, and we'll talk in a little bit about how we integrated and how we brought in our Avedro business unit, but you think about the ability to organically grow or grow through merger acquisition, it becomes critical to have harmonized business processes, established. And certainly from a compliance perspective, this is key, right? So it's once you become a commercialized, once you start selling product from a commercial perspective, once you become a public company, compliance becomes critical. Regulatory compliance, quality compliance, and certainly SOX compliance are critical aspects of any system that you want to continue to use electronically without having to support it with paper-based systems. And then, you think about integration. We just talked about integration within not only the Oracle platform as key benefit, but also integrations with third-party systems like a Salesforce. Is a key benefit that we have obviously experienced at Glaukos. And uniformity, we'll talk about that. One unified sales logistic and invoicing system for both US and outside of US is certainly important, and the ability to integrate with 3PLs, et cetera, at an easy level is very, very important. And then you think about project accounting as it relates to R&D, certainly important, and what we delivered. So the ability to be able to cost out R&D projects, certainly critical for both not only ROIs, but to know what we're spending from an R&D perspective. So a lot of benefits obtained through the implementation of Oracle that we've experienced over the last couple of years.
Thank you, David. Shantanu, would you like to add something from a solution architecture point of view?
Yes, sure, Vinod. So, apart from what's been displayed on, on this slide, I think some of the key areas that, that helped us achieve a success from a solution perspective was our focus on the compliance. As you all know, any implementation in life sciences and healthcare industry demands that we stay focused on ensuring processes implemented are compliant, gathering these requirements, identifying solutions, and demonstrating them early in the implementation project, and keeping them on our radar throughout was the key. I can highlight a few examples such as electronic signatures enabled manufacturing and material transactions, restricting sub-inventory movements for certain QA locations, or making the process of releasing of batches by the quality team, post-manufacturing at the contract manufacturers. So these were some of the key highlights, that key solution highlights that were achieved because of our focus on compliance. We also worked very closely with the validation team throughout our project. That was a major contributor to success. Having a close working relationship with validation team and baking that all those validation tasks into the project plan yielded significant results. We made sure that the teams understand the design. We also identified very early in the project all the configurations that fall under GXP scope, and we worked towards freezing those setups as early as possible, so that it helped us in IQ validation going forward. And as usual, thinking out of the box always helped. Can give you an example where we at Glaukos we had a challenging business scenario where some of the drugs are manufactured at contract manufacturers, and there were some complex requirements around its costing and procurement. And instead of going through the natural path of just modeling it as contract manufacturers, we actually used the Oracle standard feature of something called as direct material procurements on work order. And we were able to deliver actually a better solution that addressed all the business requirements perfectly well. So thinking out of the box was, it certainly helped us during this project.
Thank you, Shantanu. My next question goes to Vikas. Vikas, could you please shed some light? What are the new technologies that Oracle is focusing on, and that would help companies like Glaukos to go to the next level from here?
Sure. Our perspective has been that technologies matter, but what matters more to our customers is the business acceleration these technologies enable. First and foremost is Oracle Cloud itself. We are proud that many small and medium, but of course fast-growing biopharma companies have implemented Oracle Cloud ERP and supply chain management applications. These companies are opening new frontiers for human health in areas of ophthalmology, you just saw, oncology, gene sequencing, vaccines, health monitoring, etc. And I'm not sort of saying it lightly. I feel personally engaged through my personal experiences in the success of our biopharma companies who are just innovating. And we have learned a lot from our Glaukos implementation and are certainly intend to fill the remaining pieces or address things around both validation, compliance, but also user experience. As many of these companies are new users of not only Oracle Cloud applications, but also business applications. And we need to ease them into adoption. So we just want to, move in that direction too. And Oracle Cloud has enabled many of these new users to focus on their innovation rather than be consumed in heavy lifting on technology and integrations. So Oracle Data Science for language, speech, vision, and decisioning is another technology which is already widely used in Oracle Cloud applications to provide ready-to-go machine learning use cases for business users. It is delivering business value, and we plan to keep adding more use cases in supply chain and manufacturing cloud applications. IoT and blockchain are two other digital technologies that are widely used to monitor production, fleet, asset health, and provide end-to-end supply chain execution visibility and track and trace. Now to the question of how to get to the next level from a digital transformation perspective, after a company has implemented these integrated Oracle Cloud applications, is essentially, in my mind, is to start anticipating changing customer needs and supply disruptions, and then try to quickly match or resolve those supply disruptions. Some of the Oracle technologies that I've mentioned are already being used by our customers to do so, to manage supply disruptions and changing customer needs, so that they can then think about shaping their business outcomes rather than being reactive.
Thank you, Vikas. I have another follow-up question for you, Vikas. What is it that Oracle is doing in terms of regulatory requirements?
Yeah, I think that is key to our success of our biopharma companies. Oracle Supply Chain Management Cloud already has what we call IQ, OQ, and PQ certification, which is Oracle data centers, software development lifecycle, and life sciences specific release packages are certified. In last about a year, we have added significant new capabilities to manage regulatory requirements. These include an intelligent track and trace, which, as the name suggests, provide tracking and tracing of multi-tier supply chain transactions, a lot and serial genealogy across your entire supply chain network. From 21 CFR Part 11 compliance perspective, electronic records and electronic signatures and audit trail capabilities are available in many transactions in product lifecycle management, inventory, procurement, and manufacturing. There are a few more transactions that we plan to enable in future releases very shortly, so as to have a complete validation and compliance also available in the cloud.
Thank you, Vikas. My question back to David. David, what's next for Glaukos?
Certainly. So what I'd like to talk about here, and I think what's important to talk about when we think about digital transformation, is where do we come from to get to where we need to go? And I was alluding to, and I certainly want to cover here is, we implemented initially Oracle back in 2020, May of 2020 during the pandemic. So we were 100% remote when we launched this, and that was certainly a big challenge, but we were very successful because of our partners, certainly, and because of the commitment of the internal staff. But that was goal one. And as we talked about, we think about organic growth and mergers and acquisitions. So we implemented a plethora of all of the technologies that make up our current footprint, as we discuss, HCM, ERP, PLM, supply chain, etc. But then, we acquired Avedro, which focused on corneal health. And what our integration in 2020, or to say implementation launch in 2020, allowed us to do is, once we went in through all of the processes and launched, when we did acquire Avedro, it was far, far easier to assimilate them into our processes. Had we had this spaghetti, if you will, as you saw, it would be virtually impossible to try to integrate them into all of our systems. We would have had disparate systems, and you think about multiple ERP systems, supply chain, PLM, HR systems, etc. Certainly would have been far more complicated to ensure we were compliant and sharing information appropriately. So as we brought in 2021, May, 1 year to our launch, we were able to successfully bring in a relatively short order, bring in the acquired organization, Avedro, and that was highly successful as well. Did that remotely too, based on the pandemic. So we think about, here's the called Dateline. So we've had a lot of success in initial launch in 2020. Certainly, the assimilation of Avedro in 2021. And what do we think about moving forward? So what's great about when you think about a platform like Oracle is that there are many, many more things that we can certainly look to implement. So what we're looking at now is contract management. So we have a disparate contract system right now, and you can't do everything. So it's always about choosing what you want to put in first and initially. But now we're looking at contract management and integrating that into Oracle. We're looking at bringing in what we'll call field service operations. So when we acquired Avedro, there's certainly device management at our customer sites. So we're thinking about field services at this point, as well as we move forward into 2022 and bringing that into an Oracle integrated process. And now it becomes focusing in on data warehousing, data laking, et cetera. As we think about all the data we're collecting, how do we efficiently utilize it, both from a reporting perspective, but also digital representation and metrics, et cetera. So we will continue to push forward with Oracle, improve, grow it, leverage it. Moving forward, and certainly look to implement and bring in additional platform services as well. So we still have a lot to do.
Thank you, David. Thanks a lot. From a parting thoughts perspective, I would like first Tom to share some thoughts, and then Shantanu to share some thoughts.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, so in general, the Oracle Cloud's taken things to a whole new height by making all the information available in a single location. That in the past has been really hard to do, but it solves a lot of problems. You no longer have the silos of information that David was showing, and everything's linked together. You also have the ability to provide working processes based on best practices and what Glaukos wanted to do. So it's not like the software comes in and tells you what you have to do. You have a lot of capabilities there for working things out. In general, it was a pleasure working with Glaukos. So much professionalism and knowledge was available. It was great. It sure helped out. There were some challenges here and there, but we made a lot of quick progress throughout the entire project. So everything turned out to be a pleasure. Back to you, Vinod.
Shantanu, would you like to share some parting thoughts?
Yeah, sure. I echo what Tom said earlier. It was a pleasure to work as an implementation partner with Glaukos, in its journey to Oracle Cloud ERP implementation. We were certainly able to add value to the business through this transformation. And we are working together. We are continuing on this journey to bring more features and functions on the Oracle Cloud platform. So thank you. It was a great journey. Thanks.
Thank you. I would like to thank everyone on our panel today for sharing their experience and story. I would like to open up the Q&A session and pick a few questions from the Q&A and get responses. So my first question goes to Tom. Tom, would you please respond on quality-based reports and FDA transmission flow of data?
Sure. So in general, one of the things that has helped drastically is having direct access to all the information. You don't have to go dig things up and find it and worry about it. And you've got a kind of a world-class reporting engine built right into the system. All the data goes in and it's there live. So building quality-based reports, you can actually go in and create things that, for instance, your end customers want to see, as well as places like the FDA. You can take existing reports, replicate them, put them right into the system and access all the data. And other customers I've worked with, you have to run some of these reports and it may take you days to put it together because you have to go out and find the data in all these places. Now it's, you go in and you click a button and the system, the computer goes out and finds all the information and brings it in. And everybody's working with the same data. So you're not working, you don't have the possibility of different people working on different revisions of the part, for instance, and old data. And then the FDA transmission flow of the data, since you can put everything into the appropriate formats to begin with, the information flow becomes much easier. Again, everybody's got access to it. They can be doing their inputs real time. And then you can even do integrations directly to the FDA databases and publish the data directly out. So you cut a lot of that overhead out, if you will. Just makes it much simpler and much more controlled. Hopefully that helps answer the question.
Thank you, Tom. There is another question, David, for you. Can you describe the validation strategy that you use to comply with the FDA Part 11 requirements?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So life science organizations always have to be cognizant of validation strategy. So first and foremost, when you implement a new platform like Oracle that traverses many different areas of your operation, as discussed, validation is obviously key for launch. And the strategy we had taken was, we realized the significance of the effort across the organization and the amount of time that would go into it. So we outsourced our validation, which I thought was one of the smartest things we did. We brought in an organization called USDM. They're well known throughout the industry from a validation and a compliance perspective. We brought them in early. So typically you have different phases of in ERP implementation. You've got your conference room pilots. It's usually step one, your user acceptance testing. And you make sure that the validation partner is there along the entire process implementation, almost as if they were one of the SMEs, right? So they understand the processes and what we're trying to accomplish. Subsequently, ensuring that we check all the boxes for all of the different parts of a compliance package is done. Test script development, deviations, etc., and running that program through an electronic system as well. So we used the electronic testing system. When you think about an ERP implementation, if you do it old school and you have a bunch of test scripts that are handwritten, it becomes quite challenging, especially if you're doing it remote as a team. So having the ability to collect all that information electronically is key as well. So I strongly encourage organizations to bring your validation partner or internal teams into the process. Make sure they know exactly what it is that we're validating. Make sure that they're part of the SME team, and I think you'll have far more success like we did.
Thank you, David. There are a few questions which have been asked more on the Q&A section. Some of them are regarding the best practices that Glaukos implemented as regards to Oracle, and maybe also shed some light on your quarterly patch testing. How are you managing that, as well as any change management inputs that you would like to get?
Yeah. So in life sciences, change management is vitally important, and set documentation in making sure you do the appropriate impact assessment, risk assessment. But that's not just GXP, it's also SOX, right? And sometimes we have a tendency to forget the SOX piece. And the best practices, I think, that we put forward was having a change management system was key, and being able to record that. So we implemented a change management system called ServiceNow. Some people know it, some people don't, which basically ensured that all changes were managed through one centralized system, approved through one centralized system, and then subsequently ensuring that we tested said changes, and then ensuring that we receive all of the appropriate documentation before we then subsequently move and then sign off and move into production. So, excuse me, having a change management process is vitally important to maintain that validation perspective. So that's key. Subsequent to that, some of the other best practices that we implemented was the identification of what we call smoke tests. So what's a smoke test? It's, Oracle's, one of Oracle's benefits is the ability to offer patching on a quarterly basis. So that's the great thing, because now you're not falling out of compliance with Oracle. Back in the day, you would not update Oracle or your ERP system internally for months, or I should say for years at a time. And you wind up in a situation where you're afraid to apply any back patches because of system reliability, and that was a major problem. Now on a quarterly basis, we get patches. So, but with a life science organization, you have to ensure you do your due diligence with said patches, right? And being an early adopter of Oracle, what Glaukos was able to do is to work with Oracle and say, hey, you need to give us a lot of time to be able to vet and test these patches. So we implemented and we get basically 6 weeks for every patch that goes in. And we have implemented a patch management program, which basically looks at anything that's changing within Oracle, ensuring that we do our due diligence, ensuring that we do a risk assessment, impact assessment, and then subsequently understanding what we need to change, or I should say test moving forward. In addition to that, we implemented what we call our insurance policy. So we identified many different processes, even though a patch is going in, and it may say that there's certain changes happening. It's just good practice and insurance practice to say these are the X amount of processes that are critical to our business operations, that if something were to happen, when a patch is applied, we would be materially impacted or cause efficiency to the organization. So ensuring that you have those testing every quarter to test, et cetera, is critical and a great practice moving forward. Patching's awesome, but you got to do your testing.
Yeah, thank you, David. I think this has been fantastic. Any last comments, anybody? Otherwise, I think we are done for today.
Hope this has been informative. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, especially David, Vikas, Tom, and Shantanu for taking the time through this busy day in life. And especially after Thanksgiving, I would like to thank you all for sparing the time and joining us in this webinar. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.